my name is Michael Thompson, and this is my partner Lucas Stowe, and this is Religion in Colonial New England.
Where do we start?
I think that we should start with the fact that religious toleration did not exist at all previous to 1640. Church and state were always held together. In fact, not until 1833 in America that church and state were fully separated.
You're totally right. Specifically through the colonization of America, you can see that people believed that God was with them and believed in what they were doing, which allowed them to think that their beliefs were the only correct ones.
A big reason that colonization occurred was religious tolerance. People wanted to worship God in their own ways without persecution.
For example, the Pilgrims left England and went to Leyden, Holland, in order to avoid the persecution of James I. They then went from Holland to America in 1620.
The Puritans came around the 1630s. They came because they saw flaws in the practice of Christianity and wanted to worship without the things that they deemed harmful to their religion.
And although the Puritans came for religious tolerance in their beliefs, they did not believe in tolerance for others and the other people's beliefs.
That's very true. Yeah. They believed that the state was supposed to suppress heresy. If you were a citizen, you needed to support the church with taxes and attend Mass.
If you do not do these things, or you were found practicing a different form of the religion of Christianity, or really any other religion, then you were accused of heresy.
You could also be accused of being a witch and be hung for that. The Salem witch trials is the most famous of witch hunts in the world, and it took place in and around Salem, Massachusetts.
Yeah, that was a product of religion as well. The Puritans wanted to make sure that evil was not in their community, and they brought it upon themselves to kill anyone who they deemed evil.
It was a crazy time.
Yeah.
Even the jurors involved in the witch trials repented years after the events because they knew that the things had gotten out of hand.
Yeah, some crazy stuff. But going back to heresy, people such as Roger Williams and Anne Hutchinson, Frank, and John Wheelwright were banished from the Massachusetts Bay Colony for having different views on how the Christian religion should be practiced.
So that's how strict the Massachusetts Bay Colony actually was.
It was very strict. It ended up actually absorbing Plymouth, where the Pilgrims landed, because they thought that the Pilgrims did not hang or enough Quakers and witches. They actually didn't hang any, and they didn't banish people for heresy or anything like that, and they let dissenters live in the Cape and the islands around them.
John Winthrop, one of the leading figures in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, wrote this to justify the banishment and execution of people from their settlement. And if we find his opinions, such as will cause divisions and make people look at their magistrates, ministers, and brethren as enemies to Christ and antichrists, etc., were in it not sin and unfaithfulness in us to receive more of those opinions, which we already find the evil fruit of.
Now this next part is going to be kind of crazy to think about, but we should all actually be grateful for the intolerance of the Massachusetts Bay Colony.
That's right, and here's why. Connecticut was founded by Thomas Hooker and his followers in the protest of Massachusetts theocracy. Connecticut was not completely tolerant, but they were a lot less harsh than Massachusetts. It was a start.
It was a start. New Hampshire was also started by John Wheelwright and his followers in protest of the Massachusetts theocracy.
Roger Williams and his followers established Rhode Island after his banishment from the Massachusetts Bay Colony. This was, in our opinion, the most important because it was the first place with full religious tolerance in the world history. Roger Williams did not allow a connection between church and state and was the first to ever start a settlement without persecutions towards certain religious beliefs or practices.
He believed that people should be able to, and I quote, choose and maintain what worship and ministry their souls and consciences are persuaded of.
Roger Williams' ideas would from here on out slowly begin to integrate themselves into the entirety of New England. In 1691, a new charter was enacted that stated all Christians, besides Baptists, had religious liberty. Persecution died out, even if laws were still present. I think it's really cool that we are living in the first place to ever have complete religious tolerance in world history, New England.